Okay, whenever you're ready, Darcy, we're all ready too.
Okay. Call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Let's see, Sargiana,
Here.
Trevor,
Here.
Jason,
Here.
Annette,
Here.
Collie,
Yeah.
and Chair Handel. It's here as well.
So everyone's here, or who's missing?
We are missing Manisha, Krista, and Brandy.
Okay, and then the next is the mission. The mission of the Human Relations Committee is to protect and promote the personal dignity of all Bismarck citizens and eliminate any discriminatory barriers and prevent them from reaching their full human potential, seeking and making education and compliance to meaningful and visible strategy to recognize and value of the diverse community. Approval of the minutes.
I would so move.
1 second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Documents, HRC meeting.
That was just the meeting.
Oh,
That's
okay,
the-
sorry, public comments?
I don't think we have anybody here for public comments, so we can move on to the goals for 2021.
Sure. And who does?
Diversity University.
That's Brandy.
Yep, that was Brandy was
And
taking the lead,
Krista was branding her on that.
and that was for the
Cultural
cultural dinner.
dinner,
Yes. So we'll have to park that one until next month and move on to the municipal equality index rating. And I believe Jason Grenick has some information or has been working on that with Brandy. Jason, do you have anything you can share with the group as far as an update on the municipal equality index rating?
At this point, I don't have much. We had talked about a couple. Can you guys hear me, or am I yelling because I'm in the car?
We can hear you, Jason.
We'll turn you up here in just a little bit. Go right ahead.
Okay. So, we had at the last HRC meeting, we had discussed a few recommendations that we had made. And so I was unable to follow up on touching base with the Bismarck admin building to see where they were at. I do believe that an email was sent, but I didn't get to follow up on that, Jason. That's my fault. I believe that at this point, I'm going to be kind of taking the lead on a few things going forward. So this next month is kind of where I'm going to jump in and see what we as the HRC board can do and to work with a few others in the community.
Jason, when were the recommendations needed to change the score? Is that already passed?
That was passed. I do believe what Whitney had said is that there would be guidance. Hold on, let me see if I can pull up a few things, Jason. I don't know if you have information that I'm missing here.
Did they have to go through like the county commissioners or not the county, the city?
The city commission is aware of the project and basically gave approval for representatives of this group to work towards improving the score. One thing Jason Grenick had asked is if we could verify that the police department has somebody that is the liaison between the city and individuals And the answer is yes. We do have an officer. Her name is Katie Horn. She is part of the community awareness and crime prevention program. So she's not necessarily an officer in a car out catching bad guys. She's more on the, I guess you'd say, administrative side, working with community partners and organizations and things like that. So,
And she works at the police department. I
Yep.
take it.
yep, she's a SWAT officer, so she, you know, she could carry a gun. She can do all of those things, but her role is a little different than, you know, catching the bad guys, so to speak. She is more of a community specialist working with businesses and organizations, getting out there to do things exactly like this.
Correct. And excuse me, what we had been hoping is that once finding that out, that can be relayed to the national HRC, which would affect our MEI score. We had also hoped that the city administration, may be able to model a liaison for the city the same way the police department did. And that's where I dropped the ball on not following up on that part of it. We didn't know if that would entail, just designating somebody who would be interested, because we were hoping to save cost in not having to hire someone along those lines. But we would leave that up. We would just make the recommendation that the city would look at that.
So Jason, did we reach out to, that committee to let them know in regards to the police liaison at all?
We have not yet. I do believe that the city actually reaches back out to the national HRC, and I can follow up on that with Whitney to see, I think we can do it at any time. They did have like an end date, I think of end of July or August, if I believe, to update, but I know that they can update those scores at any time. Even if we're in the works of doing something such as looking into an LGBTQ liaison for the city, even if we're looking into it, that could alter and raise our scores a little bit also. And so that I could take that task on of following up with the city administration to see that we can get those MEI scores updated.
Where's our score at and where do we want to be at?
We want to be at 100 out of 100, Darcy. And I do believe the last I looked, we're at 63. Does that sound about right, Jason?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not a terrible score, but there's certainly room for improvement.
What are we
So-
doing right and what are we doing wrong? I guess I'm not familiar where we're at on that.
So it's not that we're doing anything quite wrong. It's that what our city,
It's not, how can I put it?
What can we work on?
Right.
Some of it, my understanding is some of it is just simple reporting, sharing what we're already doing. And I think Jason and Brandy have learned some of those things and just talking with the police department. And I believe it's not that we're not doing these things, we just weren't getting credit for it in the past.
Or kind of like, what are we doing and what aren't we doing? I guess is what I was,
Yeah.
not so much wrong, but
yeah, not a problem, Darcy. Last month when we kind of went over those handouts, it shows a little bit about where we have room for improvement, such as do we have anyone at our city level who works with homeless gay and lesbian youth? Do we have services for HIV patients within the city? Just different things that we can look at. And that's where I'll be meeting with Renee Mock to kind of find out, like Jason said, we may already be doing some of these things and just haven't had a coordinated effort of reporting this.
Jason, who initially reported to get us that score? Was it the city?
I guess I can't answer that question. I'm not entirely sure. Jason, do you know where that initial score would have come from?
That initial score of 63.
Yes.
What I am believing, because I don't have the history of knowledge on this matter either. I am assuming that a previous person within the administration for the city of Bismarck or citizen reported. I don't even believe a citizen can just report it. I believe that somebody at the city of Bismarck in the past has been reporting things. And that's where that initial score came up with. Because when Brandy and I reviewed it, there are a few things that are a little off that maybe previous administrations had been more active in.
Now, when you say off, what do you mean by off? I guess I'm not,
I'm assuming
They are no longer relevant to this current day.
This is the one that they mailed to us.
Part
But
of,
we also caught things that weren't being reported, such as the police force LGBTQ liaison. We also, I do know after speaking to the chief of police, is that they are reporting hate crimes now to the FBI, whereas they haven't ever reported hate crimes in our city's past.
maybe to answer the question of where some of this data would have come from initially, I suspect, just given that the police department has an employee that is identified in this role. I also know that the police department has a number of steps and information that they have to provide on a triennial basis as part of their accreditation. So not all police departments are accredited. Ours
what do you
is.
mean by that though?
Accreditation basically recognizes them for some of the work that they're doing, and it's proactive work. It's not just crime fighting, but they have to uphold these thresholds of continued proactive work and community engagement and training and all sorts of different things to be recognized as an accredited police force. It's a higher distinction than a traditional police force that's not accredited. Some of the reporting that's coming through here quite likely came through that accreditation process, and they do have key staff that are dedicated to accreditation 100% of the time. So it might be something where reporting was getting done on behalf of the police department, which is in general on behalf of the entire city organization. We just didn't realize how those scores were getting computed and calculated and what they really meant going forward. What it means right now is that they're coming through in the municipal index or municipal equality index, because that was part of the aggregated scores that they were providing.
So they not only look at this, and I should have investigated this a little further, not only Bismarck, they also look at it as a county, Burley County and parts of it, and they also look at a state part of it too, correct?
My
Kind of like the highway patrol and the sheriff's department.
Could be, yeah, there could be other levels of reporting or data sharing outside the city of Bismarck.
And if you recall, the only thing that we're working on is just recommendations, because we as a committee can't take on all of this work. We're trying to guide the different departments so that they can coordinate together. So there's more of a plan for how to address inequality in different groups within our city. And this is our first kind of look at it, is the LGBTQ community. We're hoping that this can then be transplanted into as a model for different groups, such as people living with disabilities, new Americans, different areas of underrepresented citizens within our city.
So going forward, Jason, it'd probably be best if when you have some time, come in and sit down and we can walk and talk through this with our city administrator. We can pull somebody over, Katie Horn, quite likely, or the police chief can come over from the PD, and we can talk about all of this information. And then for us as an organization, if it is something where other departments could help by just simply answering questions or filling out the report, that would be something that this office can help coordinate.
I'm actually friends with Katie, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then I just noticed, I never noticed this before, there's like extra credit points. So you could potentially go over 100 because there's flex points.
Mhm. Yeah.
Correct. What I would probably let the committee know is that I should be able to meet with Renee Mock within the next 2 weeks from Human Services to find out some of those flex points if they're relevant, and then maybe set up an appointment with you, Jason, and have you coordinate with the police chief to see where we're at so that we can kind of resolve what we can before the next HRC meeting. Is that something that the committee is in agreement on?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
And Jason, when you do meet with Renee, if it's possible, if you want to keep me in the loop too, might be helpful just so there's some continuity between departments. And if I can
Yeah.
serve in that capacity, then I can help make some of those connections between public health and city administration, police department, so on and so forth.
Great.
Since the HRC serves effectively, you know, Whitney and I, this department, we are the staff support for this organization, for the HRC, for this committee. So if there's things that you need from us as far as, you know, just general coordination support, whatever the case might be, just let me know. I'll do what I can to be there.
Okay. I am on my way back from vacation. I don't know what your schedule is like tomorrow, Jason, but I did take an extra day off. I may reach out to you in the morning just to kind of coordinate some stuff then.
Sure, yeah, that sounds good. And Renee and I are in constant communication on a variety of other things. So I'll be in the office tomorrow, but then I'll be out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this
Okay.
week. If we want to try and find some time, I can take a look at Renee's calendar through my calendar and maybe start to look for some openings and see what works with your schedule and with our schedules, and then we can go from there.
That sounds awesome. Thank you for the help with that.
Yeah, no problem.
So the next on the agenda is the student. Well,
Student liaisons.
thank you.
So I'll share with the group. This is Jason Tomatic. I apologize, I wasn't at the last meeting. I was out of the office on vacation, so I know you had a kind of a brief written report about some of the work that I was hoping to coordinate with Bismarck Public School staff. I was fortunate enough to sit down with Dr. Hornbacher. Must have been, let's see, we missed the July meeting. It must have been late June, after the June meeting. And shared with Dr. Hornbacher the goals of this committee to engage with student liaisons, raise awareness for the work that this group is doing, and just try and be more engaging with some of those future leaders in our community. Dr. Hornbacher gave me 3 names of individuals to coordinate with. To date, I've had one really successful conversation. That was with Dale Haroff. Dale is the director of the Career Academy, and the conversation with Mr. Haroff was regarding the commercial arts students and whether or not they could help with rebranding the logo. Mr. Haroff was all in. He said that is a fantastic project. They love that type of work because it's real work that the students would then see the direct results of the work that they were doing. So he indicated they've got a kind of the way they run those types of projects is they've got a bulletin board within their department, and they put these ideas or these concept projects up on the bulletin board, and if teachers like them, the teacher grabs it and starts initiating with students. With school being just a couple of weeks away, I will circle back with Mr. Haroff and make sure that the staff at the Career Academy are still interested in that project, and then figure out what more we can do as far as getting those students maybe to come to some of these meetings or getting them caught up on what's going on. But ultimately, I can see a need to pull either all this group or some of these members into a conversation with those students and the staff to get a better idea of what the goal is to create the logo and what the expected outcome and timelines would be. So that one.
Talking about like what we talked about, like getting a banner the last time, is that what?
Yep, the logo that we have now is something that really none of us can put our finger on. We don't know where it came from. We don't know how long it's been here, but what we do know is that it's hard to duplicate because we don't have the original computer artwork. It's hard to scale up. It gets pixelated. So the idea would be to completely refresh that logo, and then through the work the students are doing, we would have what's called the vector images. It's essentially the working files to change the size and the scale and colors and all of that.
I should say.
Yep, for the logo. So of the three goals for working with students, that is probably the one that has the most traction at this point. Another name of an individual that Dr. Hornbacher gave to me is, I think she goes by Sassy Shetler, if I believe is her name. And my understanding is she works very closely with students that are part of the Native American culture. And I had traded a couple of emails with Sassy and then I got ghosted. So I need to follow up with her. She said, hey, I'm interested. Tell me how, tell me what I need to know. I said, hey, we'd love for you to come to a meeting, talk about some of this stuff, better understand the HRC, and that's where it stopped. So I will follow up with her. And then the other name was someone that her name is escaping me off the top of my head. I need to knock on her door again and say, hey, remember me? We were going to connect on this. So given Dr. Hornbacher his leadership within the department or within the entire district, he said, hey, if you have any dead ends or if you hit any roadblocks here, just let me know. And he'll do what he needs to do to kind of key these people up and say, hey, get back to working with the city here. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is get students engaged, get students to come to these meetings or get students aware of what this group is trying to do. And I think we'll be successful on the front of the logo side of things. As far as the other two folks, it's going to take a little more work on my part, and being out of the office on vacation and just missing some of that timing, I think that's part of the delay. I suspect the other part here is, again, we're 2 weeks from school starting and folks are getting pretty busy. I know Dr. Hornbacher's getting inundated again with all sorts of concerned parents on both sides of the COVID conversation. And unfortunately for them, I think masking in schools is going to be another hot topic at a future meeting. So that's
What was
taking,
this past meeting?
Yep.
An hour long.
it's taking a lot of their attention.
And when does school start?
August 26th, it's a Thursday.
There's one that started today.
Yeah, I think the parochial school, St. Mary's, I believe, started today. So,
They always start about a week earlier than the public schools.
yeah.
So then are we looking at also having conversations with more than just the public schools, or do we have to stay within the public schools?
There's no restrictions to just public schools. It was just easiest to get to Hornbacher first, because I know him professionally. I don't know the administrators at Shiloh or St. Mary's, but we could certainly make those reaches too if that's something that the group would prefer.
I know Reed Ruckles is the principal. He used to take care of me, but I don't connect with him anymore, so
And he's at Shiloh,
same there.
St. Mary's, okay.
I think it's a great idea, all of it, to have a conversation, since the Curve Tech is the first one, to maybe, if they're not coming here, if one of us can go there or something to talk about us, and then maybe they can be student liaisons as well, if we're talking to them and they know about it on that entity to come forward. I know we had quite a conversation a few meetings ago in regards to involving all different types of groups of students. So I'm assuming that's why they had you reach out to the Native American.
Yeah, thank you for that. So my understanding was with Sassy, she works with some of the kids that may not have all the opportunities that other kids have. And Brandy was very mindful to say, this isn't just for kids that already have all the opportunities. We really want to get to the kids that may not have some of those experiences outside of school. And I believe that's where Sassy needs to help with that connection, is to really find those kids and say, did you know, here's some opportunities for you to get involved in some things.
Does she also work like with the special education end too?
I don't believe so. I got the impression that she focuses primarily with Native American students, but having not connected with her, I don't really know exactly what her role is. It's a fairly new position, I believe. I honestly don't know a ton about it.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is, let school get going
Yeah.
first, because they're gonna have a lot on their plate, especially with the COVID protocol.
And the idea with reaching to Dr. Hornbacher back in June was to make some of those connections to the administration and then also to the faculty. So if they are interested in these projects, they can work them into the curriculum throughout the year, instead of us coming in December and saying, hey, we got a project, and by then they've already got their entire lesson plan built for that semester. So.
Then I don't know if he ever mentioned, I don't know if you've heard of the AVID program in the public schools. And what that basically is, it's a lot of students who may not have the opportunities, who they are recommended to take that class, and it's to get them,
Now, what does that stand for?
I don't remember, but it's to get them ready for college. So something like this would be very good on or whatever they fill out for college, but Tana Sukowskis is the head of all AVID programs in the entire city. Throughout
Tana?
Tana Sukowskis, yep.
Did she change her last name?
No,
Is there a Tana Kincaid?
I don't, no, it's not her.
Okay, because I thought that was the name that Dr.
Oh,
Hornbacher.
No, she didn't, it's Sukowskis. I've never heard her as Kincaid, but
Okay,
she is, she oversees like all of them. She used to be at BHS and just, like, now she oversees all
that's
of them.
that's the other program
Yeah.
that Dr. Hornbacher had recommended.
And I'm friends with her and I could reach out to her too,
Okay.
if you wanted me to.
Well, let me check, because I know he said Tana, but I think I wrote Kincaid in my notes.
It's Tana Sukowskis, it's like S-U-K, it's a lot of letters, but
Yeah.
she goes by Suk, because her
Okay.
name's so long.
Sounds Polish or something.
But yeah.
So, okay. And I can circle back with Hornbacher and just say, hey, Dr. Jason, here's where I'm at. And maybe he needs to nudge him a little bit too. So, but I do have an email and I think I've got a phone number too for Sassy, so I can make that connection or try and make that connection.
Is he willing to like come here sometime to like one of the meetings here?
Well, Dr. Hornbacher suggested for particularly Sassy and Tana that there may be some value in them coming and just getting a better understanding of what the role of the HRC is and the goals and the mission and things like that. I think it would be helpful for them to sit through a meeting and ask questions, and we could certainly put that on as just a general discussion for whomever from BPS to sit down and better get to know this group a little bit better.
Kind of like them getting to know us and we get to know them.
Absolutely. Yep.
I like that idea.
So unless there's any questions, that's about all I can offer for student liaisons at this time.
No, that sounds really great. Thanks for the work so far.
I don't know if it was in the meeting minutes or not specifically, but did anybody let Manisha know that we're no longer even looking at going in front of the school board? Because she's been gone.
Yep,
Okay,
yep. And she's out of the country now, so she's not worried about that. But that was something, that was part of the initial discussion. Thank you for that. Sorry, Jana. That was part of the initial discussion with Dr. Hornbacher, was to say, hey, this group would like to share a little bit of information with the Bismarck School Board. And what Dr. Hornbacher shared with me is that due to COVID and some of the weird meeting schedules and limited availability for personnel and staff, there's a lot of things that really got put on hold as far as presentations to the school board, and they want to try and catch up with some of those things before they start adding new.
Kind of like not getting it together like in person.
Right. Yeah, because the meeting sizes were limited, and I think some
Because
presentations.
they meet downstairs in the town baker room, right?
Correct, yep. So Hornbacher indicated they'd like to get through their backlog of presentations before adding new organizations to the list. He certainly never said, absolutely not, I don't want the HRC there. That was never part of the conversation. It was yes, but not now, if that makes sense.
Kind of like for us, like when we met through like the phone or.
Yeah. So, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
I guess next on the agenda is the participant in community events.
we talked about that a little last time, that we're gonna look at trying to get on TV, radio, more around when we actually have events. So I believe the next one then would probably be when we do Diversity University, looking at reaching out to different contacts as far as going on and talking about that.
Yes, and I believe with Diversity University, Whitney helped me out in the past, that's been a winter time activity, like November for the meal.
Yep.
So, once, again, Trevor pointed out, once school starts, that would be something that, Brandy had initially taken the lead on, and Krista was gonna be working on as well. Once we know a little bit more about that, that would probably be the first
Well,
item.
Yeah, and then just so you know too, I think we gotta reach out soon because we gotta know if that teacher is even willing to do it.
Yeah, and so.
Or just getting the information out there.
Mhm. yeah, we'll make sure we'll check in with Krista and Brandy and see where we're at for the September meeting, but that's gonna be something, the cultural dinner, I think we're gonna need to see that on the agenda for the next couple of meetings. And then that'll help you guys decide how you wanna promote it. You know, I think one of the easiest ways to do that, there's a few, but certainly through our website, social media, and our reach to the local professional media, you know, that's one way this office can help. But then also, I think a pretty deliberate effort with Dakota Media Access, whether it be, you know, they call it their carousel. If you watch Channel 12, they always have ads of what's going on in the community, public meetings, things like that. That's one way to do it.
Well, and I think of like the KFYR, cause they do like the North Dakota Today, where they have, where it's just about events, like, or.
There's a bunch of places you could go, Studio 701 if you wanted to,
Right.
different radio stations. I mean, we just have to see who can go on it and how much we want to advertise it.
Really, the big key there would be to have consistent messaging. It's pretty simple to say what needs to be said. It's the who, what, where, when, and why. You know, it's when is the event? Where is it located? Who's
And how
interested? How much money is it? What's the cause? I think maybe one of the biggest questions at this point is, what is the culture that will be focused on? You know, that's some of the work that needs to get established very quickly here, so the group students have a better idea of what they're working for as
Cause
well.
what was the one that we did not last year, but what was it the year before?
Was it Ecuadorian food or something Latin American along those lines? And before that, there was, Indian food and was it Filipino, I
I
think?
think there was Filipino, should said, yeah.
And at one point, I thought the first one was Liberian. If I remember right, I want to say they've done this 4 or 5 times in the past. And each time it's been a completely different country and culture than years prior.
And that's at the Legacy High School.
Correct.
I don't know if you know this, but does anybody know if Brandy has stated like how long she's gonna stay in the community? Cause I believe she's moving.
It wasn't my news to share, but yes, you're right. So for anybody that's listening, and Jason, maybe you know a little bit more too, just given your time with Brandy, but Brandy has informed us that she and her family are going to be moving in September. And she's not able to be at this meeting because it's student orientation tonight. And I think the next meeting is intended to be her last meeting.
I was just asking because I thought it would be soon and I don't want like Krista to be
Yep.
on this by herself.
Right,
I didn't mean to
Where
bring
are
up
you
like,
moving to?
yeah,
Colorado.
Oh, Colorado.
So
So does that mean that we need to fill another vacancy or,
yes, we'll have to
or
be
how
looking.
does that work?
We'll look for a replacement for Brandy, and just to kind of touch on that a little bit, so the last time there were vacancies, we got a high number of applications. We kept those that were not selected, and we
Do you
will
put
look,
those like on file?
yep, and we will look through them again, and we will give them to the mayor and say, Mayor, these individuals applied before, and if they're interested, then they would be eligible. Then that way we don't have to go out and re-advertise and go through that whole process again. But I think we've got 6, 7, 8 of them on file. Whitney's given me the 7. So we'll take a look at those and talk with the mayor next week on Tuesday when we have city commission meeting, and make sure that we really don't miss any steps. And then also, there's a few of you, and we'll make sure to contact each of you individually, but since we are talking about terms, we have a few of you that are set to expire. Your term on this board is set to expire at, I believe it's end of the year or January. So we'll make sure for those of you that are either filling out an incomplete term from someone else, or you're on your full term and your rotation is up, we'll make sure to let everybody know. And then if you are interested, again, we would just ask that you reapply like everybody else. Obviously, there would be preference given to anybody that's got experience on the
Because
board.
isn't Krista up?
Krista is up and she is no longer eligible because she has served 2 consecutive terms. So we know that when she is done, there will be a new face for her. I believe, Polly, I think you are filling out an unexpired term, and I believe you're one of the others that comes up. And then we'll be looking to fill Brandy's position here pretty quickly as well.
So does the mayor then just choose out of that 7, or how does that work? Can someone else apply, or only the ones that are already on file? I'm sorry, I don't know how to.
You go ahead, Collie.
Yeah, so you said I was one of those serving the unexpired term. So how would that be when the term is just over? Do we have to reapply, or what would be the outcome?
If you're, so normally a term is 3 years, but because you came in and picked up the balance of somebody else's, that's why your term is shorter. But you are absolutely eligible to reapply, and we'll make sure that if your term expires in January, we'll make sure that if you're interested and would like to reapply, that you'll get all the paperwork ahead of time. To answer Sargiana's question about how does that look, or how does the mayor go about selecting them? So in the case of Brandy, we've got, I think, 7 applications. You guys can tell us too, we can look at all 7 of those, or we can turn around and open it up to the entire community again. We just thought that given the interest in the most recent vacancies, that it would be kind of low hanging fruit to call those folks and say, hey, remember us, you submitted an application. Are you still eligible? Are you still interested? And give them first opportunity, because we did tell them we would keep their files on hand.
You know, correct me if I'm wrong, is it up to like, what, 9 people that can serve on the?
Yep, you're at full force right now, you've got 9. The final decision is effectively, it's a recommendation from the mayor to the entire city commission, and then all 5 of those members vote on the mayor's recommendation.
It's generally on the consent agenda, correct?
Correct. Yep, no public hearings, no interviews or anything like that. We would base all the decisions on the applications that were submitted by those that were interested.
So getting back to, not to bring up Brandy moving again, but I think she was gonna take on a major part of the dinner, and also I think Krista, just so you understand, Jason, from my recollection, Krista really wanted to step back and not do that.
I think because she was going off, I think.
Yes, that's the total reason.
And you're absolutely right, Trevor. So I guess this is.
So is that open up to anybody then, at this point?
Anybody on the committee? Yeah.
Well, you know, I would do it, but I just need to know how to do it.
See, and I would too, and then transportation is
Yeah.
kind of difficult too.
Yeah, and I don't know that any decisions need to be made today at this meeting, but we can certainly have this discussion at the September meeting, and hopefully Brandy's available for that, and hopefully Krista's here as well. But no fooling, it's gonna be a little bit of work to get this thing coordinated, but I agree, Trevor, with Krista moving on, if this diversity university.
I would hate to see it go.
Right, if this cultural dinner is something that this group feels strongly about, then someone or someone's, multiple people are gonna need to step forward and pick up that piece and carry the torch. It isn't something that.
I mean, I'm willing to work with Trevor on that, as far as like,
Yeah,
helping out with that or whatever.
but yeah, it's just how,
But yeah, I'm like you, I wouldn't even know, since I've never been involved with it, I wouldn't even have a clue what it.
I don't even know the teacher's name at Legacy that's done this. That's been Krista's project in the past, and I'm sure she can tell us a whole bunch of information when she's available.
you
So
know,
Is she gonna be here like next month then?
I guess I don't know. So if not, if for whatever reason, if Krista's not available, I can spend some time with her either on the phone or one-on-one and just try and get as much information as possible, so we don't lose that resource. We don't lose that memory of how those things happened in the past.
yeah, and I think also Jason Brandy was gonna be a major part with this index rating thing too, and so.
And I think that's where Jason Grenick is gonna, it's good that there were partners on that project, because I think Jason, whether he realizes it or not, is gonna end up being the lone carrier of that project.
Well, if
Yeah,
Jason-
I kind of
on
understood
that,
that.
I would be willing to help Jason. Jason, this is
Oh, cool.
Sargiana. If you're wanting help in that, I would be willing to, because this is something I find really interesting now, especially when we talked about last meeting where we could look at this in other areas such as disability rates or things like that moving from here. So Jason, if you ever want someone to help you, I'd definitely be willing to help you on that.
Awesome. Yeah, I kind of
First
knew.
being the chair, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I kind of knew what was going on with Brandy. I'm just glad you brought it up, Jason. I didn't want to say anything before she had said anything. I didn't know who she was talking to about this. So I kind of had in the back of my mind an idea that we're all going to kind of be picking up some work to do as a committee, you know, with her leaving and with Krista kind of ending her terms. And she has a lot of history with this committee and the things that were going on. So
The one thing that's kind of dawning on me right now is that with a lot of them going off is that then you kind of lose like the history of it.
That's why it's
Like
important.
documentation on
Yep, and staff will.
You know, where you kind of want to be, why do I always say, you don't want to lose the history, but yet you kind of want like the new blood too, or new ideas.
Yeah, there's nothing that says you have to do the cultural dinner year after year. I just think personally, I think it was an event that the community supported. I think it was something that gave the HRC exposure and an opportunity to work with other community partners. I personally would like to see it move forward, but if it's the decision of this group to focus your efforts on something else, nothing binds you to that one item. So,
it.
Well, and then I think the kids
Buy-in
kind-
For us, like just to distribute it and do it.
Yeah, so we'll just postpone that until next month, Jason.
yeah, we can try and touch base with Krista and see if she's available at the next meeting. And like I said, if she's not, then we'll do our best to get as much information from her. And then I think just even a phone call to the staff person at Legacy High School. to
Jason
say,
has
"Hey,
his hand up, so I'm not sure.
Jason,
I just was gonna wait until you were done. I just wanted to bring up something. You know, we keep talking about different things like Krista did this and whatnot. There's nothing stopping us as an entire committee from being involved in the cultural dinner. You know, there's nothing stopping any of us from all of us as an entire committee coming together to help pull something together, especially when we have people who are leaving, so that all of us learn since we have different terms, if that makes any sense. It's a way I feel for the entire committee to come together and learn how to do this cultural dinner together.
I agree. Especially.
I think you just blew everybody's mind.
Teamwork, Jason.
That was a very timely statement, Jason.
I agree with that. That made a lot of sense. I mean, it would be great.
Okay, well then for the next meeting, I will, if Krista's not able to be here, then I will do my best to get as much information from her as possible. And maybe go so far as to, we might even need to invite that faculty person from Legacy to come to the meeting and help the rest of you better understand what's been done in the past, what works, what doesn't work, what the goals are, what the dates are, just all of that information.
Yeah, I think it would be nice for her to come to a meeting, Jason, because then.
Or even a couple of
Is there any way, Jason, like, we can save documents that we send to you in regards to if we do like after an event, do just kind of a thing about what worked, what didn't, and like tips and stuff, so we just have it saved with you guys. So when someone leaves, we have that all there.
I think you.
them, kind of like when you did that
You need a pen.
up at the Capitol or whatever. Or what was that?
Yeah, we could even do like Jason and I, and whoever else was there could even do one regarding like the when we did the Pride Day at the Capitol.
That's what I
and,
was,
like,
that's,
what different things that we bought did well, which is basically everything, and how that works too. We can do it for almost every event that we have. Kind of a deep rush that worked.
In the last 5 minutes, this meeting has gone from something that happens once a month to something that's becoming very professional. I fully support that idea. We call it like an after action hot wash. Basically, anytime we do something where we're planning for an emergency event or we have a significant event that's different than any other time, we try and get the staff together and just do exactly what Sargiana suggested. What worked, what didn't work, what would we do differently, what would we try the next time around. And that becomes a kind of a resource material for this group next year or for this group in 10 years, if this is still the effort that's going on. So I think that's a fantastic idea.
Or kind of like what you get involved with and. You know, when I think of like, the Pride Dakota or. I don't wanna say like the Art in the Park, or not the Art in the Park, the Urban Harvest. And I know, I think that's done, I think, what, Thursday, I think.
Okay, well, for the next,
They, oh, I was just gonna say, it's already over. They had a really short season for Urban Harvest this year, just because they weren't sure what would be going on with COVID and whatnot. So it's actually done.
When did they get done?
Last week was the last one.
I was thinking it was this week, I don't know why. Do you know how the turnout was with that?
I guess just anecdotally, oh, go ahead, Annette, sorry.
Oh, I mean, I don't represent them or anything, but I've been a frequent attender of Urban Harvest. And it was pretty, I only went one time this summer and it was pretty small. Like it was mostly food vendors, at least the week that I was there, which is completely the opposite of how it was about like 10 or 15 years ago, where it's mostly like artisan vendors or whatever and very little food. But anyway, so yeah, so it was definitely smaller this year, I would say.
Did they have like the live bands that they ordinarily do?
Yeah,
Yes, yep.
but one night it was for a band that I knew, and that was probably a bigger night, but yeah, it was like Annette said, it was mostly food vendors.
And I suppose because of the heat, I suppose that had a lot to do with it too.
I think just the uncertainty of things like Annette said, and, you know, people move on and do different things. If you saw the same vendors there this year that you saw 10 years ago, you might wonder, what are they doing to
Yeah,
really grow the organization? Because not much has changed in 10 years. So maybe a rebuilding year, because I don't believe they did anything last year with all the,
I think it was canceled last year.
yeah.
But Biz Market is always busy. I mean, that could be one you could look at on Saturdays. They're always busy.
Which one is that?
Biz Market.
That's the, I guess it's down by the municipal ballpark on Sweet Avenue. It's Saturdays from 9 to 2.
10 to 2 or 9 to 2, yeah.
And there's food vendors, there's farmers markets, there's local artisans. It's kind of a nice variety of just local talent. I don't believe any live performances.
Once in a while, they have in the Saratoga shelter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that might be something that this group could consider, setting up a table and.
And they have other tables too, like I saw, like, I think that Hot Works place and some Psycho Bar, so it's other places like that too.
A lot of those I haven't even heard of, so
Which is why they're there, because they're trying to promote who they are, new and different organizations and businesses.
it's kind of maybe a good way to kind of get. For them to kind of get to know us and vice versa.
Any other comments on community events? This community events will remain on the agenda because it's part of the goals for 2021. So we'll leave this on for future discussions as well. And then now we're already talking about getting into the fourth quarter here pretty quickly. So we'll be looking at this group's discussions for goals for 2022, you know, things that you'd like to see different, things that you'd like to work on. So we'll make sure we get that on the agenda coming up in the near future. But for the next meeting, for sure, we'll have more information about the municipal equality index rating and the cultural dinner / diversity university event that's later on in the fall of this year. Is there anything else that the group would like to see at the next meeting from staff?
I'm just wondering if you decided if you're just gonna take those 7 or the spot that's open, or if you're gonna open it.
Well, we did tell everybody that applied that, thank you for your application, we'll hold it on file. So I think in order to be consistent with that, we'd like to look through those at least first and see if there is one person that would step forward of the 7. And then when it comes to,
I do know that one of those persons is here, so.
when we get to the annual renewal, then that would be a full round
Okay.
of open to the community applications.
Okay.
So there will be a chance for new voices to apply in the future.
Then does that have to be, and is that like, how do I always say it, like with the state law, is that like advertised in the paper for so many days?
I don't know that we advertise necessarily in the paper, but we do put it on our website. We do share a news release, so it does end up as a more of like a small announcement in the newspaper. It's not in the legal ads like a public hearing maybe and things like that, but
For
Yeah.
like so many days, I think it's like,
yep,
I wanna say like 30 or 45, I can't remember which one, but
we'll make sure that when it is time to seek new members for that annual application process, that it will go out as robust as it can throughout the community. So there's a lot of opportunity for people to pick it up and be aware of it. So that's something that this office does for any position. We'll follow the standard practice that we've done in the past, so.
cause does that go like with like the open door meetings law?
Mhm. Yep. I think that takes you down to other business, Darcy. Unless there's anything else.
So is there any other business?
Any comments from Polly, Annette, or Jason out there in virtual world? Everybody's quiet.
None on my end.
Okay. Anybody here? Trevor?
No.
Sorry, John?
I think I've talked enough. Trevor's been kind of quiet tonight though.
You talked a bunch before the meeting.
I don't have much.
Okay, well, Darcy, your next meeting is in a month on Monday, September 20th at 5:15.
Okay, I'll full move to
And
it.
that's here, no.
Here until something changes, we will continue to meet in this room unless otherwise, if anything causes us to do differently, but otherwise we will continue to meet here. It appears as though having a virtual presence makes it easier for some of you to attend. So if that is your preference, please let us know ahead of time so we can make sure we get all the necessary calendar invites and all that sort of stuff set up. But I do appreciate that you guys take time out of your schedules to get to these things. Monday evening isn't always the best time for a meeting, but appreciate those of you that were able to attend today. So you got a motion?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to see everyone.
You too.
Thank you.
Stay
you, everyone.
cool.
So then, do you post the recordings